Hi, and welcome back to Team Coaching Chats with Ro and Nadia. So, today we thought we would have a chat about working with teams in all their glorious messiness and how you can help them navigate stuff that just shows up when you turn up for a coaching session that you weren't anticipating. So before we get into that, please like and subscribe to our channel. It makes a huge difference to us. And of course, please drop any comments in the comments section below. So Nadia, we were just having a chat before we started today where we're having a bit of a download and we kind of started to reflect on how that sometimes happens when you're working with a team. You go thinking you're going to be helping them with one thing and then they show up with something else that's just happened and they just want to get it out into the open. And then suddenly you're in this morass of frustration, emotion, whatever it might be, based on what they're bringing into the room. So let's have a chat about that because I know you've got some thoughts about that in terms of how you work with constellations in particular. So over to you to begin the process of untangling that messiness.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about this chat actually, because I think we're going to call it, team coaching is messy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the reason why I love doing team coaching. And, life's messy. And team coaching actually allows everyone to show up as, in all their messiness is as well, in professional settings, in personal settings, in the community, everywhere. And yeah, I really like that in team coaching, it's actually allowed and you work with that because in general in coaching, it never really matters whatever people want to work on. Like we think we have it all sorted out, we have a goal and we want to go to that in a straight line. And I come from a project management world and I've never seen a project being delivered on time, on budget. And so it's really, once you just acknowledge that, the whole system can relax. That's not to say that, you shouldn't be working against goals, but they should make sense and you should be aware of the messiness. It's really handy as a team, and a team coach can help you with that to uncover some of that messiness. Where is it that we're getting stuck?
Yeah.
Where is it that we find ourselves saying, look, are we here again? And so this circular reference almost, how do we work through that? And then actually the goal makes a lot more sense once we've uncovered that to then put in place a goal that's meaningful to everyone and everyone feels comfortable about achieving it ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because yesterday I was doing some training with some leaders and we were talking about bias and heuristics. And there is a sort of a rule of thumb that makes us see patterns in random things. So when we're working with teams, the team is always thinking that there is some kind of pattern or reason for things, when in fact it could just be that something has happened. And so that messiness just comes out of the fact that we live in a complex world where things change around us. And that thing around goal is also one of the things that happens sometimes to the team. So sometimes they don't have any say as to what the goal is. So, and sometimes that's what that sort of download can be about when they enter the room. So it's about helping them make sense of that goal in relation to where they are at as a team, and then helping them create some sense of control around that that then helps them move forward. Because again, we have to acknowledge that we're working with teams and organizations. Organizations have got specific business goals and the team is there to help the business achieve those goals. So they kind of that's what I call an enabling constraint on the team. And so they have to learn together how they're going to cope through that messiness. And I'm really interested because I know you've done your training in constellations, and obviously I'm aware of what constellations is, and I love the subject, but you've done the training, and I'm just curious to understand how would you work with a team in that space of messiness using something like your expertise in constellations?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I just want to make an observation as well. You froze there for a time
Ah, and you're freezing as well.
there with us, um, but am I?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me just pause the recording. Okay, so that's the first time we've had a technical hitch. So we were just about to go into your experience around constellations and how you use that to help the team make sense of that messiness. So over to you, Nadia.
Yeah, thanks, Ro. And I think Constellations is a great tool for that messiness because, as you pointed out, sometimes the team just gets external goals, or there is a manager who's hard to sort of pin down or feel empowered by. And all those things can make it a bit messy sometimes because if a team is not really clear around, and we talked about this before, its purpose or feels empowered and really knows their place and role in the organization to actually contribute to the goal, people are a bit in the dark around, what's sort of stopping them. And I know there's a lot of talk around accountability, especially around teams, where people need to come together and people feel that things don't get done because of this accountability. And again, I think Constellations is really a great tool to get some of that out. Because what we tend to do with when things aren't progressing as we want, or we're not achieving the goals that we want, we try to sort of zoom in, get more control, sort of face it head on, have lots of discussions, meetings, plans, things that we really try to actually make it happen by forcing it through. Whereas I think where Constellations can help is actually take some of that language out of the equation and really get clear on what is the dynamic that's preventing us to moving forward with confidence. Is it a dynamic within the team? Is there a power play at hand? Is there uncertainty in the team? Is there things running in the background like reorganizations, as many organizations go through these days? And so by doing a constellation, you can actually really respectfully bring some of those things to the surface. And I know we talked about, being honest is really important in this sense. And being honest or candid, as I would call it, it's not about that, the whole team needs to know what's going on or really sort of need to get into the content or the nitty gritty or the, even the banter about, certain things that are not working. It's really just about acknowledging, right, what are some of our barriers? And doing that in a sort of more silenced way, in a way, not talking about them head on, but really sort of putting all those elements out in space, it gives you an opportunity to look at it. And I think we spoke about that before as well. When you start looking at things, it's completely different than when you're in it, in the thick of it, and really sort of moving in that messiness, because it allows you to take a step back and look at the messiness and then sort of uncover together, right, what are some of those dynamics that aren't helping us at the moment?
So what would that look like if you were working with a team? How would that work? What would you be physically be doing with the team?
So there's three principles. So the first one is you contract with the team obviously around this. And this is not something that you would do at day one. It's something that you need to build a container for and sort of get people comfortable with. But in essence, it's a really simple process. It's right, what is your challenge that you're working through at the moment? What are the main elements present in that challenge? Who's involved, what is involved? You can actually constellate a reorganization as well, right? As something that maybe everyone is sort of looking at and sort of makes them freeze a little bit, and that'll show up in the constellation.
So when you say constellate, obviously for our listeners, what does that actually mean in
Great
reality?
question. It's just putting in place, like you can use objects, you can use select the whole team, you would use objects. And what it'll do is you take whatever. You can take Lego, you can take office chairs, office furniture, and constellate it and put it in place. And then each of those pieces represent an element. It may be a person, it may be your manager, it may be the team itself, it may be certain individuals in the team, it may be the goal that you're working to. And it's really around looking at what is present, what is really present at the moment, and then in together with the challenge, and then sort of, right, what would you rather be like? So that is a step to better. What would you rather, what is needed here in this team to free up some of that constraint around not being able to perform or achieve the goal.
So when you say what would one step to better be like, is that where they move things in that constellated? picture, if you like, of the reality. So say the chair were here that represents the organization, yeah, and you say, what would one step to better be like? Would they actually move themselves to closer? You know, is that what they're physically doing in the space? How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. Spot
Yeah.
on. Although it's not a sort of, because it's almost like, people want to step to better straight away, right? Like, but it's really like the pearls are actually in first establishing where you're at.
Yeah.
And and that's what I mean about being honest with oneself, around, right, what's going on in my life at the moment, what's going on in the team at the moment, what are some of those dynamics, can we actually be honest about those and acknowledge them? And we don't have to sort of put them over pour, everyone else with our emotions, or over pour sharing, or oversharing. It's really about being just honest. Right, okay, this is what I can see. Yeah, let's just sit with that for a minute, because that's where the answer lies in terms of a step to better, because always the step to better is always quite clear. But it takes a little bit of time, to actually really acknowledge, right, where am I at and how can I move forward?
Yeah. So our role as a coach then is to ask them to reflect on what they're seeing and what's coming up for them as they look at that constellated version of reality.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And
Nice.
by physically doing it, you're not talking about it. So there's no opportunity to get into a discussion of who's right or who's
Yeah.
wrong. It's a collective, the team itself, in a way, sort of coaches it itself. Yes, us as facilitators are there to make observations, to guide the process, but it's really all about the team knows what's going on. And instead of like making it a heated discussion or get that conflict out, or it's actually a really neat way of acknowledging what's true. And then with that realization,
Yeah. So you broke up a little bit then. So I'm assuming you were going to say, and with that realization, and then we lost you.
with that realization, the team will know what's best for the team to be moving forward with confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. So that was really sparked by our download conversation that we had before we started recording today. And I guess goes to the heart of why team coaching is more complex than one-on-one coaching, because it is about understanding that complexity and the messiness of all of those interconnected parts within teams and the environment in which they work. So before we leave today's conversation, obviously remember to put any questions, comments into the comments below, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you on the next chats with Ro and Nadia about team coaching. Have a
Thank
fun
you. And as an observation, this was a bit messy because we got broken up and we
parallel processing. Zoom was
how
parallel
you roll with it. See you later, Ro. That was awesome.
processing. Take care.